Did you think that closing painting estimates was going to be easy? I did, and after closing hundreds of homeowners on the spot and getting to 71,000 a month consistently, I wish I would have done it smarter. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what you should say to homeowners so you don't have to be guessing what to say, and that way you can actually close at least 50%. Obviously it will require some skill, but at least 50% of the estimates that you're giving. So the first step I'll walk you through is going to help you close more homeowners. So pay attention. Okay, so imagine for a second that you're talking to your friend and you see that your friend is not very open to your ideas. Maybe you guys are talking about religion and you see his body like, yeah, I guess, maybe, sure. What does that tell you? That he is not understanding your point. Why? It goes from one ear to the other because the person is not open to what you're saying. Now, how does this apply to homeowners? Well, it's exactly the same thing. When you meet a homeowner, the reason why most painters cannot close is because they expect them to have high trust on them when the homeowner barely met you like 20, 30 seconds ago. And second of all, they know that you're biased. What does that mean? They know that you want them to do the project with you because you're gonna get paid. And so they're very skeptical at first. And so what you want to make sure that you do is make the homeowner drop the resistance. So imagine their resistance, you want to drop it down right here. And the way that you do that, it's kind of like you see their body language like this. You want them to be open. You want them to be moving and open to your ideas. And that's how you're going to actually close more estimates. But that's actually easier said than done. How do you actually make sure that you disarm the prospects so they open up to your ideas and then end up choosing you? So actually, let me walk you through that. Okay, so step number one, imagine for a second a chicken. Now I'm just joking. Forget the chicken. The first step to actually disarming a prospect is actually very simple. You want to come out as if you are a friend. And so, what do I mean by this? You want to drop the professionalism at first. And so, if you're meeting homeowners and the first thing that you do is you're pretty serious, hey, how's it going? Good, good, yeah, so let's walk around your house. That's not how you meet a friend. How do you talk to a friend when you go meet them? First thing you do is like, hey, what's up, bro? How's it going? Or, yo, how's it been, man? Haven't seen you in a while. And so you want to do the same thing with homeowners, but you don't want to fake it. So what do I mean by this? Because it could be like opposites, right? One guy is very serious, very professional, and the other guy is like, "Oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long. Like, my name is Carlos. Oh my God." Like, you don't want to be that guy. They know you're faking. They know you're lying. They know you just want the money. All right. So just act casual. Act like a normal friend. What does a normal friend do? I mean, unless, I don't know how you greet your friends, but usually, you're not over exaggerated, but you're not also like very serious, like, yo, what's up, bro? Like, yeah, yeah, I'm good, right? You're in that middle, like, hey, yeah, yeah, how's it going, man? Like that. You want to be casual, friendly, but not over friendly. So just point that out. And then step number two to disarming the prospects is you actually want to do a small joke. So you want to do something called, well, you call it like a joke, or in more psychology, you call it like a pattern interrupt. What is a pattern interrupt? Well, if somebody asks you, how's your day been? Usually, what's the normal type of responses you get from everybody? Pretty much everybody just says, "Oh, I'm good. How are you?" That's pretty basic. And so everybody's used to, like, when you ask like, "How's it going?" "Oh, I'm good. How about you?" "I'm doing good." We don't even think about our responses anymore because it's just so often that people say the exact same thing. And so to position yourself better and like lower the guards of the prospects, right? Like the homeowners, you want to say something odd. You want to say a joke or something that makes them snap back into reality, and they're like, "Oh wow, that's actually quite different." And they actually think about your response now. So let me give you one example. So if someone asks me, and I practice this in day-to-day life, if someone asks me like, "Hey, how's it going?" I might say something like, oh, just staying out of trouble here. And usually that makes people laugh. And what happens when somebody laughs? Well, just to keep it not as scientifically, right? It releases something called dopamine, which is just a hormone that makes us feel happy. And so by you saying something odd like, oh, just staying out of trouble, and you make people laugh, you automatically lower resistance. Why? Because they're usually not laughing with other contractors, with other painters. And so you already position yourself as differently. Do you see how that works? You can make up your own, just make sure you don't say something really cheesy. Just say something casual, right? You're not gonna say like, hey, how's it going? Oh, I killed my uncle last night. That's weird, that's not funny. So something that's kind of funny but like not over exaggerated, or like, oh, I was taking a big dump in the bathroom this morning. Ah ha ha ha. Like nobody's gonna laugh at that, right? That's kind of weird. You barely met this person for 20 seconds. And so say something funny, but don't over exaggerate. Remember, middle, in the middle. You don't want to do, too serious or too funny. All right. And then step number 3 to disarming is you want to put your focus on them. So let me actually walk you through an example. As soon as they ask you how's it going, just staying out of trouble. How about you? Ha 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 ha. They laugh off. Trying to do the same, they're probably gonna say. Then you want to immediately take control of that conversation and focus about them. Don't talk about yourself. I've seen this with so many painters. We actually worked with one painter, and the first thing that he would do is he would talk about himself. Oh, my right here, this happened, and my wife and my kids. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're pissing off the homeowner. He doesn't care. I mean, I don't want to be mean to you, but he actually doesn't care. And so what you're doing right there is that you lowered the guard and you brought it back up in just a couple seconds by focusing about you. Instead, quickly come and, oh yeah, tell me a little bit more about the project. So like when you say the exterior, like I guess what have you seen in your day to day that makes you feel like your exterior is not where you want it to be? And they're usually gonna walk you through, oh yeah, let's walk around the house. You see those cracks and stuff, and they're gonna start talking about their home, and that's what you want them to do. You want to find out details that then you can use when presenting on why they cannot keep delaying painting, right? It could be that maybe their face is peeling off, and that could be trouble for them, more expensive. And so the more they speak, the more you're actually going to obtain as ammunition. I like to see it as ammunition that then you can fire up when you're pitching, when you're giving your price, and when they give you objections. And I'll walk you through that in a second, but always put the focus on them. And just remember that this phase, it's all about, imagine there's the homeowner. You want them to talk, all right? So they're talking, and they're doing it in an open way because you make them laugh, you make them feel comfortable with you in the first 30 seconds. And this happens quick. This doesn't take more than a minute. It just happens quick. Hey, nice to meet you. How's it going? Just staying out of trouble. How about you? Ha ha ha. Well, tell me a little bit more about the project, your exterior. Like, what have you seen in your day to day that makes you feel like it's not where you want it to be? Oh, this, and that. Boom. Less than 20 seconds, I did that. And so, yeah, now let's move on to step number 2 if you want to close more estimates on the spot. So, this probably has already happened to you, but when you go to the store and as you're walking inside the store, the salesperson or the customer service, whatever you call it, they come up to you and they're like, hey, are you looking for something specific? And the first reaction you give them is, oh, no, I'm just looking around. Has that ever happened to you? Well, it probably has, right? It happens to me all the time. Whenever I go to a store, I hear the person, are you looking for something specific? I'm like, oh, no, I'm just looking. I instantly push them back. And so the same thing is going to happen with homeowners. Sometimes as you're going through the estimate, maybe you're talking about the details, they're going to ask you, and how much is this going to cost me? Has that ever happened? It probably has. Many homeowners just want to get straight to the price. Now, here's the thing, and you probably experienced this. How often does someone actually commit to doing a project when you give them a price as soon as they ask it? Not often. They probably hear your price and they're like, oh, okay, that was kind of expensive. Yeah, let me get back to you. Why did that happen? because the homeowner doesn't understand why they even need to paint. Even though they called you for an estimate, they still don't understand the consequences of inaction. And so by you giving the price, you're basically ruining the whole sale. And so before you give the price, make sure that you actually make them focus on what they're getting rather than the price. Like, put the price aside, like make them focus on the outcome. That's very important because they're not buying painting services. That's not what they're buying. They're buying a beautiful home. Maybe they're buying, safety because they don't want their fascia to peel off, and maybe something to be broken inside their house that they now have to replace, right? Maybe they're buying status. They want to feel better around their neighbors who have beautiful homes. They don't want to be left out. That's what they're buying. And you have to make them realize that before you give the price. Otherwise, you lose the sale completely. But how do you actually do that? Well, let me walk you through the steps. Okay, so step one, if they ever mention the price, you don't want to just ignore it because that's going to bring the resistance back up and they're not going to have trust in you. Instead, you want to resolve that without giving the price yet. And you should do that because, first of all, you cannot give them a precisely estimate just yet. You still need to make up the numbers. You have to calculate the materials. You have to multiply it by the square feet, whatever method you use to charge. You have to do that. And so it'd be unethical for you to give them a price right now. It doesn't help them at all. It doesn't help you. And so step number one is you want to resolve. Okay? So you want to resolve. You don't want to put it under the rug. Like, yeah. But anyways, tell me more about the project. They're not going to be open anymore. They're always going to be like, this person just wants to gather information so he can help me, right? That's what they're probably thinking. But instead, the way that you resolve is you say something like, oh, yeah, that's not a problem. It's really going to depend, on a couple factors here. Like, for example, what paint product you're going to use. Second of all, what colors are you going to be choosing for the home? Are you keeping them the same or not? And third of all, once I do my measurements and find out a little bit more about the house and actually take a look at how the condition is, then I can walk you through like a precise estimate. Would that be appropriate, or how would you like to proceed? You see what you're doing right now? You're giving him realistic reasons why you cannot give him an estimate right now. You're telling him, hey, I need to do this, that. Like, can you allow me to do that? And then I can give you an estimate. And you just want to say it in a kind of like obvious way, but without creating judgment. So, what do I mean by this? Which is actually step number two. You want to have the right tone. So, like I mentioned before, you don't want to sound like you're judging them. You don't want to say like, yeah, it's really going to depend, on like what type of paint product you're going to use, the color, and really the condition of the home, because I'm not even sure we can help you. Like, then I can walk you through an estimate. Is that correct? Can we do that? That's like, sounds like you're judging them. Like, if, hey, are you not thinking, like, are you not smart enough to know that? Instead, you want to say it in a more like confused tone. So look at the difference right here. Yeah, it's really gonna depend, like the paint product that you're gonna use, the colors that you're choosing for your home, and really like doing my measurements and walking around the house so I can see like the condition of the home, because I'm not even sure we could actually even help you yet. But once I walk through those details, I can walk you through an estimate. Would that be appropriate, or how would you like to proceed? So you see the difference right there. I'm acting like confused, like, hey, yeah, I mean, we need these details. And what does usually happen when someone acts confused? You implant doubt into the homeowner's mind. They probably thinking like, maybe I'm tripping here. Maybe I actually need to let the professional do its work, and then they're gonna give me an estimate. And most of the time, you're gonna get someone to say like, "Oh yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, let's do your process, and then you can give me an estimate." You see how that works? So hope that makes sense. You want to use curiosity, and you don't want to get defensive, right? So that's very important. So hope that makes sense. You want to use curiosity tone, like act confused, like, oh yeah, it's gonna walk through these details first, instead of judging them, right? You don't want to build up the resistance. You want to keep them as open as possible, but you want to make sure that you resolve it. That's step number one. You just don't want to ignore it. It's gonna be counterproductive to you. And then step number three, if they ever ask you about the price, you wanna really focus on them. Okay, so you don't want to talk about yourself anymore. Why? Because if you start talking about yourself at this point, that could be trouble for you, because they just asked you for a price. Why did they ask you for the price? If you really thought about it, why would someone ask you for the price? Is because they're probably getting impatient. They're like, "Ah, I just want this quick. How much is it? Just tell me." That's what they're probably thinking in their heads. And so if you, after that, come talking about yourself, because you could do it sometimes, but if they ask you about that, remove it. Don't talk about yourself. Don't come in like, anyways, I was telling you, I actually come from this town, and like, don't say that, because now they're gonna get more impatient and they're gonna bring it back up again, and you cannot use the same thing that I just taught you, which is, yeah, it's really gonna depend, because then it's gonna seen as a tactic. They're gonna know, and they're gonna be really straightforward, and they're probably gonna tell you like, hey man, but just give me like an average. How much is it? And then you're fucked, because now you lost the estimate. And so, very important. Now, step number three, if you want to close more estimates on the spot, this is the most important one. Pay close attention. So, in order for you to understand this, I'm going to tell you a quick story. Imagine, there was this farmer, and this farmer, has a horse, and the horse, ends up disappearing, right? Just walks away. And so the village, the people in the village tell the farmer, "Oh my goodness, you lost your horse. So unfortunate. I'm sorry." But the farmer said, "Yeah, maybe." He didn't say yes or no. He just said maybe. And the people from the village were kind of confused. And so 2 days later, the horse comes back with a basket full of fruits. And the people from the village were like, "Oh, wow, you're so lucky." And the farmer says, "Maybe, maybe." And the people from the village never understand this man. Why is he saying maybe? 3 days later, he has a son. And the son wanted to hop on the horse. And as soon as he hopped on the horse threw him back and stepped on his leg and broke it. Now the people from the village were telling him, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. That's so unfortunate. You should probably get rid of that horse." And the farmer said, "Maybe." And they were so confused, like, what's wrong with this guy? So now a week comes by, the kid obviously recovering from his leg, he still has the leg broken. A military officer comes into the village, and they are recruiting men to take to the war. And they're taking every single young people they see except that one kid, because they saw his leg broken and they're like, "Oh yeah, he's just gonna be a liability. Just let him be. He's not gonna be useful." And then, the kid saved himself. He didn't go to war. And that's when the people from the village told him, "Oh my goodness, you're so fortunate. That's actually like so lucky." And the farmer said, "Maybe." And so the reason I'm telling you this story is because most of the time we see things in a different perspective. And so one person might think, if you see it in the perspective of the horse stepped on the kid's leg and broke it, he's gonna see that as horrible event. "Oh my goodness, that was so horrible." But if you see it on this perspective of war, and that it happened before they came to get the kid, it's so fortunate. And so same event, different perspectives. So it's really what you see that you're gonna get that. Same way as with homeowners. Whenever they tell you it's too expensive, I need to talk it with my wife, I need to get 3 quotes, it's because they're seeing it in a lens that they need to get those 3 estimates. They need to talk it with the wife. It's too expensive for them. They're seeing it in that perspective. So you have to change the way they see things if you want them to buy from you. But how do you actually do that? Because it's very simple to say, but it's hard to do. So let me actually walk you through step by step how you can do it yourself. Okay, so step number one, if you want to change the belief of a person, make them focus on the actual thing. So we're just gonna use the price objection, right? Yeah, it's too expensive. You probably get that a lot. And so what are they thinking? They're thinking that the value that you give is just not worth $5,000, $10,000. So how do you make them see differently? Well, it's something called the first step. You wanna isolate, right? So it's very important. Isolate the money. How do you do that? Well, you're gonna say, okay, and like putting money aside, you're isolating the money. Do you actually see yourself choosing us to paint your home though? If you did have the money, like you're isolating the money, they're gonna say like, yeah, I would. Like, hang on, like, why do you feel like it though? So that's step number two. You want to get reinforcement. So very important. Reinforcement. I'm not even sure if that's how you type it out, but reinforcement. You want them to reinform that belief that they just said that if they did have the money, they would pick you to do it. So yeah, I would do it. Hang on, why do you feel like it though? So now they're telling themselves on why they're gonna pick you. You're changing the belief right there. You're not making them think about the money. Now they're thinking about the value. And so now they're seeing the cost. This is the cost. And they're reinforcing more the belief of like, yeah, you know, you guys are actually going to do a good job because of X, Y, and Z that you guys are going to do. You see how that works? And then step number three, which is very important, you want to help them find the funding. So, AKA the money. And so, yeah, if you do that, you're going to close more estimates. So, how do you actually help them find the funding? Well, you're going to say something like, well, I appreciate that, you know, money might be like an issue right now. I guess, like, what are some ways in which you can get the funding so that you can have a beautiful home and you don't have to paint this in another 10 or even 20 years? What are you doing right there? You're helping them think of ways in which they can get the funding. And so they're probably going to tell you something like along the lines of like, well, I think I can use a credit card, or I can split it between my credit cards. Oh, okay. Do you want to do that? Now you just close an estimate that was not going to buy at all, but you help them think of ways to find the funding because they already said they're gonna do it with you if they have the money. So all they have to do is just find the money. Now, if they still don't find the money and they tell you that they just don't have it, you can break down plans for them. You can give them options to pay monthly. And there's so many platforms that can do this. I won't mention one specifically because you know they could go out of business, but one that I think is gonna stay is Affirm. You can get Affirm to help you out with that. I'm not even sure. And there's so many more that are gonna help you, you know, break down into payments what you offer. And so you could actually come and like, yeah, can I make a suggestion? Have you considered, you know, paying month to month? So that way you can have a beautiful home and you don't have to paint it in another 20 or 20 years. And most people are gonna say like, oh, you have payment options, and yeah, I can walk you through that. If I were to walk you through that, do you see this working for you? Yeah, I see this working for me. And then you just get them on a payment plan. And the good thing about payment plans is that they pay you the money up front and they just keep the customer and they're collecting the money month to month. But you get the full amount as soon as they like sign up with the payment plans. So if you do those three steps, you're gonna close way more estimates than you probably have right now. But here's the thing, even though I just showed you exactly how to close estimates on the spot, it's still not gonna work for you. Why? Because there's one more thing that if you don't do, you're just never going to actually grow the painting business. So watch this video next where I break down my full sales script in more detail on how to close more estimates on the spot so you can make more money with less work because you're already closing more estimates than you have right now. And so imagine if you close 4 estimates a month and now thanks to this you close 8, you just double your business without getting more leads, without having to do more marketing, just learning how to sell better. And so watch that video right here. It's gonna break down in more detail. Hope this was helpful to you. My name is Carlos. Take care. Bye bye.